the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wilton, joined by Sergeant Wilton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
I know a police officer who ended his career by sharing too much with his spouse, and I thought this would be a great topic for us to touch on today.
You know, it's one thing, it's knowing what to share, what not to share, but also having candid conversations leading up to what you're sharing and having that communication. Because I think if you were to blindside your spouse with the most severe on one end when maybe he or she's not ready for it, and like it could become a surprise, but being able to have those conversations with one another leading up to, say, from kind of a minimal incident to almost an intermediate to that advanced type scenario, you're setting that foundation to be able to be comfortable with sharing that.
Yeah, you know, it's a really interesting concept because I think I actually kind of disagree with that completely, actually. And the reason why is because I think a lot of it has to do with your personality type and their personality type. So there are some people that, you know, they don't like even watching like gory movies, for example. Like things might feel offensive to them or uncomfortable to them in general. That might be of their personality type. And so if you know that, and then you hit your spouse with something dramatic that you just experienced at work, or you're not sensitive to that way that they receive things, then that's where the problem lies, I think.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And in saying that, like, you have to know your audience, like, and I think it's the same thing in policing in general. Like, you're not going to go out to the public and share your war stories as you would with your partners. You have to know your audience. You have to have, if you can't have those conversations with your spouse or with family members, like, you can't come and surprise them with, oh, guess what happened today, and just catch them off guard with it.
Yeah, I think sometimes I share things with you that are more like than you've shared with me. You know, I'm thinking back, okay? I didn't marry a police officer, first of all. And you and I kind of grew up with you being born into the realm of law enforcement as a police officer. So a lot of those things, we kind of learned and experienced them together. And mind you, like from the onset, we've always had close communication and like recapped and debriefed our own days with each other. And so perhaps that contributed to it. But then also when it comes to my personality type, growing up with 5 brothers and being the only girl and, you know, my dad sticking a shovel in my hand and like me kind of having the rough and tough lifestyle and just the way that I was raised probably contributed towards how I receive things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because how you explained it is, you know, you have that person who can't watch gory movies, doesn't like cursing, doesn't like however it may be. Like my mom's the perfect example. Like I can't share stories to my mom that I've experienced, what I've been through or what I've seen, because I know she couldn't handle it. And it's like I said, it's knowing your audience, being able to share that stuff, where there's a lot of stories and instances that I can share with you, and I can never do that with my mom because she would not be able to mentally handle it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the whole essence of this conversation is to understand the importance of protecting your partner's peace without shutting them out.
Yeah, it's being able to share stories, share wins, share successes and or failures without going into the details. It's, you know, we're professionals in being able to articulate incidents and turn someone's story of what happened to them into a report, into a narrative, and to where it's readable for someone coming in to go to court and having to deal with it to file those charges. Being able to take it in such a way to where it's not so graphic, so gory, or being able to share that story in a different way.
So let me go over some signs that I have seen that might be indicative that your partner could be feeling overloaded instead of connecting with you when you are having those conversations. Because I'm certain you have good intent when you open up to share them. And one of them is that your partner might seem like they're anxious or even withdrawn after you share certain details. So let's say that you describe a call and everything is super graphic, and then you notice that they shut down. This could trigger an emotional discomfort and actually a disconnect, even if they don't say anything about it to you.
Yeah, it's recognizing those signs so you know, okay, I overshared. It was too much, and it's being able to allow them to have that space, but to have communication with them too, to say, hey, I apologize for that, or I understand that this is what I recognized, and that won't happen again.
You might be doing this subconsciously, like unwillingly and unnoticing if you've never had an open conversation around it before. And that is that you vent regularly without asking if they're able to actually receive what it is that you're sharing with them. So let's say that you immediately come home and then you unload everything. This might turn your partner into a sort of sounding board instead of a teammate.
Yeah, you want to... It should be a conversation. Conversations are two ways, not just one-sided. And that's what I think it's important to recognize. And I think all of us need to recognize that more, is a conversation takes two people. Otherwise, you're just talking to a wall, and you don't want that.
And here's one of the biggest red flags that I've seen, especially in a first responder relationship. And that is that the only time that the two of you are connecting is when you're sharing in order to offload with that person and not to connect. And you talk about the job, but you never actually open up with how you feel about things. Or those are the essence of the majority of your conversations, is things about you and work. This really prevents a lot of emotional intimacy, and it might leave your partner feeling like they're sort of an outsider.
Yeah, you want to be able to have those conversations and be able to communicate with one another, and not just be, like Ashley said, as utilizing your partner as a soundboard, and you want to say, okay, why do you need to vent this to your spouse, to your significant other? What is going on to create that?
Your partner might be telling you right away how they're feeling about these types of conversations. And it's really important to pay attention to the things that they don't say. And what I mean by that is if they start avoiding conversations about work because they change the subject, or they give really short and vague responses, that might signal that there's an element of emotional overload, or that they want better boundaries around this.
Yeah, and it's being able to recognize that and have that communication with one another to see, okay, what is going on? How can we talk about this? How can we have that shared conversation? Or avoid having that at all and find if there's some underlying issues that you're having and you need to talk to somebody, there's, different avenues to do that.
Another thing that you can do is actually ask before you offload a bunch of shit. So, do you have space for me to be able to talk about something super heavy with you right now? And don't get offended if they say no.
Yeah, don't carry resentment or anything, because they may not. And if you were to offload on them like that, you're just going to create the opposite end of resentment towards you.
I want to say something here, and that is that you are not lying when you do what I'm about to tell you. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you might need to filter with care, and that doesn't mean that you're being secret about things. So that means omitting graphic details. It doesn't mean that you're hiding. It means that you're protecting. So let's say that it was a homicide involving a child. You could literally just say that instead of going into all of the graphic details about a bullet in the head and blood all over the place, the way the body was, all of those things, right? So it's okay to omit certain things out of you sharing your story.
Yeah, it's being able to use your Google filter on your story to kind of summarize it without having to go in depth and detail. You're not going to share, the family's response, the graphic scenes associated to it. And because, one, you want to protect, just like you go out and protect the public, you want to protect your own family and your family's well-being.
So let's say we have that child homicide and you're sharing that story. Another important element to this is to share the feeling and not just the facts. So instead of just recounting the call, talk about what it stirred up in you and then help to build that sort of emotional connection. Because when you do that, your partner is going to be more engaged and more likely to want to have these conversations.
Yeah, because it's the facts about the situation, they're always going to change. But when you have an emotional response or a physical response to a situation like that, your spouse wants to be there for you, to support you, and to help you through whatever you may be going through.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.